Imagine that you're a basketball player who simply can't score. You miss wide open layups, dribble the ball off your foot, and not even come close to the rim on your jump shots.
Ooh, step back. Airball, oh my God.
A player like that would never thrive in the NBA, right? Well, yes, unless you're Tony Allen. With his incredible defensive skills, his 6'9" wingspan, and elite athletic ability, he managed to dominate the NBA for 14 years, despite missing one of basketball's most important skills. But here's the crazy thing, because Tony wasn't always like this. In fact, he actually began his NBA career as a scorer until one day when everything was suddenly taken away from him. January 10th, 2007, Tony Allen, who the Boston Celtics selected with their 25th pick back in the 2004 draft,
the Boston Celtics select Tony Allen,
has slowly worked his way into the Celtics head coach Doc Rivers' rotation. But it wasn't always like this, because in his first season, he began like most rookies do, riding the bench and picking up minutes wherever he could. Yet the 2006-2007 season has presented him with a unique opportunity. Paul Pierce, the team's main offensive weapon, has been in and out of the lineup with injuries, meaning TA has finally received the chance he has been dreaming of since he was a child. As this regular season match progressed, Tony was continuing to shine. His incredible athleticism means defenders struggle to stay in front of him, and his vertical leaping ability allows Allen to get so close to the rim it's almost guaranteed points. TA would score his 19th bucket with this putback finish, and with the fourth quarter still to come, he might even break his own record that he had set a few weeks before this game, a night where Allen would score 30 points. Pretty impressive for someone who had only played a single season of high school basketball. On the following play, Boston's main scorer would come off a screen and look to attack versus Steven Jackson, but the ref would call a foul. Tony, a player who was always filled with energy, went to throw down an emphatic dunk. However, Allen would come down awkwardly on his left leg, immediately falling to the ground in immense pain. Tony knew something was wrong. All the work TA had put in to get him where he was today flashed before his eyes. The single senior season in high school, the 2 years at 2 different community colleges, to finally receiving a Division I scholarship to Oklahoma State, then being named Big 12 Newcomer of the Year in 2003, and incredibly winning Big 12 Player of the Year in his senior season, before finally making it all the way to the NBA with the goal of...
I had visions of coming into the league, being an all-star, the go-to guy, you know what I mean? I was a scorer in college. I was player of the year.
However, the next day, Tony was diagnosed with a torn ACL. Not only would he miss the remainder of his breakout season, but the insane quickness and 40-plus inch vertical he had used to dominate his defenders would be gone. While most would lay in their hospital bed defeated, Tony didn't.
So you know what, bro? I'm going to outwork everybody around me. You feel what I'm saying? I'm talking about first in the gym, lab the league, coming back at night, weight room action. I don't want to do 3 sets. Give me 4 sets.
However, upon returning the following season, the former Oklahoma State star felt lost. The same moves he had used throughout his first 3 years in the league no longer worked. And when he was able to make it to the hoop, his severely reduced leaping ability meant most of his layups ended up in misses.
My problem wasn't getting to the rim. It was just finishing.
Not only was Allen struggling offensively, but Boston's roster had changed, because in addition to Paul Pierce returning to the lineup healthy, the Celtics had also traded for the 2004 NBA Most Valuable Player and arguably the best power forward in the NBA, Kevin Durant, as well as another gifted shooting guard, Ray Allen. Therefore, there was no longer a spot for the former starting shooting guard in Doc Rivers' rotation. Tony was faced with a serious dilemma. If he didn't reinvent his game, and quickly, Allen's professional career would be coming to a close in 2010 when his contract expired. As the year 2007 was ending, Boston was set for what would become after the Lakers acquired Pau Gasol from the Memphis Grizzlies in February of 2008, a potential NBA Finals preview. Speaking of finals, Super Bowl 59 is almost here, which means now is the best time to get involved with the action thanks to my partners at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official partner of the NFL. Right now, they're giving all new customers $200 in bonus bets instantly after betting just $5. Bonus bets which you could use in DraftKings same game parlays, combining multiple bets together from the same game for a shot at an even bigger payout, all by downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app and signing up with my promo code OUTOFBOUNDS. However, if sports betting isn't yet available in your state, no need to stress, as you can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have a shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers, please use my promo code OUTOFBOUNDS and bet just $5 on any wager in order to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Once again, that's promo code OUTOFBOUNDS, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. However, Coach Rivers' starting point guard, Rajon Rondo, was out with an injury, so Doc would give his former starting scorer a chance to showcase his new and improved game. TA would step out onto the Staples Center court and remember the first time he did so back in 2005. Allen would remember how Lakers superstar Kobe Bryant dominated him so badly that Tony would foul out in an embarrassing 8 minutes. Angered by his terrible defensive effort, the Boston rookie vowed to never let something like that happen to him ever again. So Tony would ask his coaches to prepare him a custom video before every single game. Allen would haul around his massive laptop that was loaded with a compilation of his opponent's every move, tendencies, and the plays opposing coaches used to get their stars the ball. That way, he would never get caught biting on fakes anymore. But this wasn't the only way TA had begun to master defense, because his teammate Paul Pierce immediately took a liking to Allen from the moment he stepped foot into the NBA. Paul, who was already a 3-time All-Star by the time Tony made it to the league, would offer his rookie cash incentives for doing certain things, such as winning awards or dunking multiple times in a summer league game. Not only did the money motivation help the Celtics rookie, but the pair would also compete in intense one-on-one battles after almost every single practice. And whilst Tony initially struggled to keep up, he slowly learned what it truly took to defend one of the NBA's best scorers. Therefore, as this late December matchup played out, Allen would no longer struggle against Kobe. No, he would hold the Lakers star to one of his worst shooting nights that season.
Tony Allen out on Bryant. Bryant got the air, had no idea what to do with that.
With Bryant shooting a horrible 6 from 25 from the field, TA had proven that despite losing his scoring prowess, he could still be a valuable NBA player. Yet, despite Allen proving he had what it took to slow down the opposing team's stars, Doc Rivers still kept his former starter on the bench as Boston chased the 2008 championship. To make matters worse, Tony would suffer an Achilles injury that kept him out of the final 2 matchups of the Eastern Conference Finals and the first 3 games of the NBA Finals. Yet, on June 15th, Rivers, needing someone to try and slow Kobe down, would throw TA into the fire in Game 5. Just as he had done in December, Tony would showcase his potential to become one of the league's best defenders, with his ability to slow Bryant down seemingly outweighing his offensive struggles. But Boston didn't need the former Oklahoma State star to win an NBA championship, because despite Allen only playing 6 minutes, the Celtics would dispose of LA 4-2 and were crowned kings of the league for the 2008 season. Yet, Tony Allen wasn't satisfied. His limited minutes meant he felt like he didn't truly contribute, and while Tony was happy to have achieved a feat very few players ever do, TA wanted more. However, an ankle issue and torn ligaments in his left thumb meant that the now NBA champion only appeared in 46 games during the 2008-2009 season. And it wasn't just Tony who had been bitten by the injury bug, as their superstar power forward would also suffer a knee injury, ruling Garnett out of the 2009 playoffs. So Tony assumed this would finally be his chance to shine. Once again, Coach Rivers didn't believe in his bench shooting guard. As the Celtics attempted to go back-to-back, the Chicago native only played an average of 6 minutes per game as Boston was eliminated in just the second round by the Orlando Magic. With just a single year left on his contract, Allen knew the 2009-2010 season had to be his best, or this would be the end of his professional career. After a small battle with an ankle injury that caused the former college star to miss the first 20 games of the 2009-2010 season, Doc Rivers began to realize who was really sitting on his bench. Rivers began to understand that while Tony was no longer the scorer he once was, in fact, Coach Doc could barely trust him to make a layup or an open jump shot anymore. TA was becoming one of, if not the best defender in the league. So, when Boston found themselves down 2-1 against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the second round of the playoffs at the hands of 35-point and 38-point performances from the 2010 NBA MVP, Coach Doc knew exactly what he had to do. As soon as Tony Allen was inserted into Game 4, he began to make an immediate impact guarding LeBron James, because TA was always prepared. Never once, not even when Tony knew he would barely see the floor, did his groundwork ever end. The Boston guard's endless study of film meant that he knew exactly how LeBron liked to score, his tendencies, and all the plays that the Cavs head coach, Mike Brown, would use to get his MVP the ball. Therefore, as this must-win game ended, Allen had held James to just 7 from 18 shooting, resulting in a poor 22-point performance from the Cavaliers superstar, and most importantly, a Celtics W. Realizing that he should have made this decision earlier, Rivers would deploy his new weapon over the next couple of games, and Tony would repay Doc's trust by skillfully preventing LeBron from ever feeling comfortable. It didn't matter what James or Mike Brown did, Allen remained stuck to the Cavs star like glue. Every shot was contested. Whenever LeBron dribbled, Tony was applying intense pressure with his 6'9" wingspan, threatening to poke the ball loose. While many believed that this would be LeBron's year in which he finally won his first ring, Tony Allen, the player who most had forgotten about, crushed his opponent's dream. Boston was moving on. Whilst the Orlando Magic, Boston's Eastern Conference Finals opponent, didn't have a perimeter superstar, since their main weapon was a big man, Dwight Howard, they did have a sharpshooter, JJ Redick. Therefore, not only did TA master the Magic's playbook, he would also use another interesting tactic to try and slow Redick down.
And Tony was in the game, and he comes over and walks over to me, and he bends down next to me, and he turns into my ear and just starts going,
a strategy which clearly worked. Boston was set for a rematch against the Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA Finals. For the second time in the 2010 playoffs, Boston's success would be primarily based on TA's ability to slow their opponent's superstar down. So, Allen only became more obsessed with figuring out Bryant, and as the series progressed, he began to pick up on secret details that no one else had noticed. For example, Tony would often try to prevent Kobe from catching the ball, known as a denial, but then Bryant, who learnt Powell's natural language, Spanish, from watching shows such as La Madrastra and Sábado Gigante, sorry my pronunciation sucked, with his half-Mexican wife, Vanessa, would converse with Gasol in Spanish. Whilst TA had no idea what the pair were actually saying, he did know that if Kobe started speaking a foreign language, it meant he was going to look for a backdoor cut next time he was denied. Whilst the strategy worked against other teams, it never worked against Tony. Not only was Allen earning the respect of Doc Rivers and his Boston teammates as a defensive mastermind, he was also garnering it from Kobe.
Kobe, toughest defender for you?
Tony Allen. Man, that's easy. Yeah. Tony Allen. My fault. Really? Yeah, he was the only one that wasn't crying for help. Tony Allen would play straight up. He'd be physical. I could score 10 straight on him. He's not blinking. He's still there. He's still being physical. He's not backing down. Tony Allen Buffalo. Wow.
Tony Allen's defense, alongside Bryant playing with a broken shooting hand index finger, meant that, according to ESPN, Kobe was shooting a horrible 5 from 19 when being guarded by the defensive mastermind. Thanks to the Lakers superstar's struggles, it was Boston who found themselves just a single win away from the crown. However, Kobe, who had been nicknamed the Black Mamba after one of the deadliest snakes in the world, wasn't going to go down without a fight. Game 6 saw Kobe, regardless of who Doc Rivers threw in front of him, score an impressive 26 points, forcing the deciding Game 7 on the Lakers' home floor. The stage was set. The winner leaves a champion. The loser, well, losing sucks, so let's just leave it at that. Everything seemed normal for the Celtics. Allen subbed in at his normal time. However, something was different from the moment Tony stepped foot onto the Staples Center floor. Firstly, Allen immediately fell for what seemed like the first time since 2005 for a Bryant pump fake. Secondly, Rivers, who had played his defensive genius for an average of 16 minutes per game during the finals, took TA out after just 5, only to never place him back into the game. Finally, it wasn't Boston, instead the Lakers, who were crowned champions of the NBA. Angered by his sudden benching and Danny Ainge, the general manager of the Celtics' refusal to give him the contract that Allen felt he deserved, Tony decided to sign elsewhere in free agency. TA was set to become a Memphis Grizzly. But why did he choose to sign in Memphis, a franchise that had literally never won a single playoff game? Well, remember how Los Angeles picked up Pau Gasol? At the time, many believed it was one of, if not the worst trade in the history of the NBA for Memphis. But as the years passed, the Grizzlies' plan was coming to fruition because Tennessee's NBA franchise had received the draft rights to Pau's younger brother, Mark, who, as the years passed, was flourishing into one of the league's best big men. Coupled with this move, the Grizzlies had also traded for another Los Angeles player, the Clippers power forward Zach Randolph, commonly referred to by his nickname Zebo. Randolph, much like Mark, had also flourished in Memphis, earning his first All-Star appearance in the 2010 season. Alongside these trades, Memphis had also drafted Rudy Gay in 2006, a player who had blossomed into a top 5 small forward in the league, as well as Mike Conley, a defensive-minded point guard in the 2007 NBA draft. The only hole that remained in the Grizzlies roster? Shooting guard, a spot that Tony slid right into, because on the 8th of February 2011, after finishing the night having completely dominated the Oklahoma City Thunder, TA would say this in an interview.
It's just our heart. Grit, grind.
Grit and grind, something that embodied the career of Allen so far, became the mantra of the Memphis Grizzlies, and their home arena was quickly dubbed the Grindhouse. Anytime a visiting team came to the FedEx Forum, they were going to have to grind out a win. Nothing would come easy on either side of the floor for their opposition. However, there was actually a hidden reason why Allen said,
Grit, grind.
You see, he was actually angry with his teammate Rudy Gay, who the night before had been showcasing his incredible athletic ability, only to then sit out versus Oklahoma City with an alleged sore toe. Frustrated with his colleague, TA said the grit and grind statement as a petty remark towards Rudy. Yet, Gay wasn't upset by it at all. In fact, he loved the new motto the team had adopted as they worked their way to grabbing the 8th seed in the Western Conference. However, awaiting them in the playoffs was the number 1 seed, NBA championship winning San Antonio Spurs. But the Grizzlies actually wanted this matchup. In truth, they had purposely lost their final 2 regular season games by resting TA, Conley, and Zebo to ensure that they would be playing the Spurs and not the number 2 seed Lakers. So why did they do this? Well, Spurs guard Manu Ginobili had suffered a serious injury to his non-shooting right arm, and while he downplayed it to the media, the real truth was that he had completely broken it, but insisted on playing anyway. The other reason is Memphis was subscribed to Out of Bounds, so they felt like they matched up better against San Antonio due to their incredible knowledge of the NBA and their players through watching these videos. But in reality, both Gasol and Zebo could handle Spurs superstar big man Tim Duncan, and Conley could capably guard Spurs point guard Tony Parker with ease. Yet Memphis still had never won a playoff game as a franchise, and many assumed that the streak would simply continue. Or would it? Game 1. 34.2 seconds remain. The Grizzlies are down 2 points, and they have to score here, otherwise they risk continuing their playoff victory curse. But how did they get in this position anyway? Well, in what was becoming standard fashion, Memphis had slowed down the Spurs' methodical approach. Their calculated offense seemingly made it easier for their defense to quiet the Spurs' scoring, placing them seconds away from potentially winning this game.
96 San Antonio. Battier the three for the lead. Rattles it in.
However, they still had to get one more defensive stop if they were going to win their first ever postseason game.
Jefferson. Pass deflected. Hill scrambling. Gives it up. Duncan gives it up. Jefferson. Shot doesn't go.
The Grizzlies had done it. They had won the franchise their first ever playoff game. Not only did Tony help his new team go up 1-0, he continued to be a defensive mastermind, slowing down the already struggling Ginobili throughout the next 5 games. The former Celtic had led Memphis, the 8th seed, to upset the best team in the Western Conference 4-2. Grizzly fans and the franchise were ecstatic. The decisions their management team had made, which were initially ridiculed, had turned them from a joke to a legitimate playoff team. And this wasn't all, because between their series victory against the Spurs and their next matchup, TA would finally receive some recognition from the NBA, being named to the All-Defensive Second Team, an award recognizing that Allen was considered as one of the 10 best defenders in the whole league. But their next opponent, who, much like Memphis, was also a team on the rise, the Oklahoma City Thunder, led by the NBA scoring champion Kevin Durant and backed up by his insanely athletic point guard Russell Westbrook, their elite power forward Serge Ibaka, as well as their off-the-bench bucket getter James Harden, were up next. As usual,
you got to credit Coach Jay for the game. He had to edit for me to just all about Durant. That's my focus coming into every game, just to look for the stop player and know their tendencies.
Throughout the series, Allen, thanks to his dedication to not only putting effort in on the court, but also off of it, was dominating the defensive end. Despite only standing at 6'4", whilst his matchup, KD, stood 7 foot tall, a whopping 8-inch difference, TA had figured out exactly what it took to slow his opponent down.
When he shoot it, it's like my hand contest is at his elbow, so he's not seeing me. So my best defense on him was to try to deny him the ball and make it tough and difficult to catch. If I could do my job early, that's maybe 5 or 6, 7 seconds off the shot clock, which means now we coming into, all right, you waiting on a pick and roll. Now it's more time off the clock. Now you coming into a panic shot, and I'm hoping Mark or whoever my big is helping me so he won't drive past the pick and give me time to get over it. Before you know it, 3-2-1, I got the contest and he missed. Good D, Tony out.
The Memphis guard would hold Durant to 43% from the field and a 25-point average, an incredible performance against someone who routinely throughout the regular season scored in the high 30s, which would all lead up to this must-win game. Kevin Durant, who many believed to be the best scorer in the whole world, knew that he had to step up. This might be his only chance to make it all the way to the NBA Finals, and step up he did. Kevin would end the night having easily eclipsed his average. Nothing, and I mean nothing Allen did, could slow Durant down. The 2011 scoring champ ended the night with not only 39 points, but most importantly, the victory. Tony was devastated. However, he had not only proven to himself, but the league, that despite not being able to score simple layups regularly,
How did I miss this one?
hit the rim on his jump shots,
I was clanging that.
or bust out fancy one-on-one moves, that he was a legit NBA player, an individual that every single coach would want on their roster. Now, all he needed to do was win another title. However, before TA could even step foot into the grindhouse again, the NBA was facing some problems. You see, the owners of all 30 teams and the Players Association, a group that represents the 450 athletes of the league, failed to agree on new terms. Therefore, the NBA would enter a lockout, with the threat of the 2011-2012 season being cancelled. Yet, the league and its fans would receive the best present from Santa, because on Christmas Day in 2011, the season would thankfully resume. Memphis would continue to rise up the ranks of the league, and so would their starting shooting guard. Allen, while still struggling offensively,
Step back. Damn.
was truly becoming one of the superior defenders in the whole league. On April 23rd, 2012, Tony would set a Grizzlies record which still stands to this day, recording a whopping 8 steals against the Cleveland Cavaliers, aiding Memphis to end the season with the 4th seed in the Western Conference. But their opponent in their first round playoff series was a revamped Los Angeles Clippers, who, after acquiring All-Star Chris Paul to couple with their 2009 number 1 draft pick Blake Griffin, Los Angeles' B team, as many saw them, had overtaken the Lakers and were looking to do the same against the Grizzlies. As the first round progressed, the Clippers had achieved exactly what they set out to do. The combination of an elite point guard who could come off a screen and dissect any defense, alongside an athletic big man setting those screens and then cutting hard to the basket for emphatic lob dunks, was too much for the Grizzlies, because after just 4 games, Memphis found themselves in a 3-1 hole, just a single win away from their title dreams being crushed. Grizzlies head coach Lionel Hollins knew something had to change, and fast. Therefore, Hollins would make a key move. You see, Mike Conley was originally responsible for guarding CP3, but given Conley's small stature, standing at only 6'1", Paul was easily able to see over Mike to find his wide open teammates. So Coach Hollins switched TA onto CP, with Tony's length making it much harder for Chris to find his allies, and Allen's wingspan would place intense pressure on Paul whenever he was dribbling the ball. This adjustment by Memphis' leader was genius.
Paul taken away again. Allen back-to-back steals.
LA's signature pick and roll attack had been dramatically slowed down, and the Grizzlies would tie the series after Game 6, meaning it all came down to this. As Game 7 progressed, it became clear that it wasn't just Coach Hollins who had made changes, because Clippers head coach Vinny Del Negro identified a key weakness in the Grizzlies' armor. Vinny recognized that TA was one of the worst offensive players in the whole league, and decided to completely ignore him on offense.
Randolph picks it out. Wide open is Tony Allen. He's not a good three-point shooter.
Believing that if Tony won his team the game through scoring, then a Clipper victory was never meant to be. And this wasn't all, because Vinny also knew how dominant Allen was defensively. Therefore, he game planned around relentlessly driving the ball at TA, forcing him to pick up foul after foul.
Paul wants it. Tony Allen just over-aggressive.
And eventually being removed from Game 7 after picking up his 6th and final foul. Without their defensive mastermind, it was Memphis who once again would have their title dreams cut short. Allen was distraught, but he was never one to sit and sulk. Instead, he would spend his offseason studying and working, trying to understand where he had come short, as well as pick up key details to ensure he would never feel this pain again. April 22nd, 2013, Memphis is yet again in the playoffs, facing off against the same team who sent them packing just a year ago. But this season, the Grizzlies had only gotten better. Rudy Gay, the talented small forward, had been traded mid-season to Detroit in exchange for Tayshaun Prince, a move Memphis had made in order to avoid paying millions in tax. TA had also been grinding. He had spent the whole season trying to figure out how to get around all the screens he was going to face if his Grizzlies were going to win an NBA title, while of course still struggling on the offensive side of the floor.
He gets a lot of touches, and it's his responsibility as the point guard.
Tony Allen comes up shooting, he's well short.
But as Game 2 was coming to an end, it was the Clippers who, after an insanely difficult fading jump shot over Tony Allen from Chris Paul,
The screen will come from Griffin. Paul will rise, score again.
held a vital 2-point lead. Over the next few possessions, neither team could either extend their lead or tie up the contest, until Memphis called timeout to drop a game-winning play, with TA heading to the bench due to his lack of offensive skills.
Bring the ball in. Savvy veteran. NBA champion gets the ball to Conley. Clippers by 2. Conley guarded by Bledsoe. Conley.
Coach Vinny would then call timeout, allowing Coach Hollins to crucially reinsert his defensive mastermind into the game. Only this time, TA would make a fatal error.
Ball against Allen with 3. Ball against Allen for the win. Bank shot!
The Grizzlies would head back to FedEx Forum, down 0-2 in the series, and their practice between games 2 and 3 would see Coach Lionel Hollins berate his players. He called out Tony first, highlighting how his mistake had cost them their previous match because Allen had allowed Chris Paul to go to his dominant right hand. TA knew he could never let that happen ever again. Game 3, FedEx Forum. Energized by the Grindhouse fans and motivated to no longer let himself, his team, or his head coach down, Tony would skillfully force the Clippers star guard to his left hand, resulting in multiple turnovers and missed shots. The adjustment the Grizzlies' defensive demon had made would lead his Memphis squad to tie the series, heading back to Los Angeles. But something shocking was about to happen, because during a training between games 4 and 5, Blake Griffin, the Clippers' all-star power forward, would land on his teammate's foot and sprain his ankle. Whilst Griffin attempted to play in the must-win game 5, his injury was too much for the star to bear, and he was removed from the match to never return. Not only had LA lost their power forward, but the Grizzlies' all-around offensive approach was devastating the Clippers' defense, and in their following game, he would showcase the only scoring skill that he hadn't lost after his injury. You see, before the former Celtic came down awkwardly on his leg, he had a somewhat respectable jump shot. Allen's explosive leg strength meant he could leap above his defenders and put power into the ball to place it softly through the net, but now his weaker knees meant he lacked the force and often ended up missing short or just straight up airballing. Yet there is one place where this issue didn't matter as much: free throws. Tony would head to the line 11 times during Game 6 and sink 9 en route to Memphis reverse sweeping the Clippers out of title contention. Not only had TA gotten his revenge, but he had figured out how to manage the barrage of screens being thrown at him.
As he come and set the screen, I got to get low again, man. Get close, get low, put my hand a little close to him, my leg ready to not get hit. As the pick come, I'm escaping the pick, I'm getting through, get back. I got help from the wing over there, and I'm back to square the ball up for the team. A
skill he was definitely going to need in their next series. However, Oklahoma City, much like Los Angeles, was struggling with injury woes. Russell Westbrook had unfortunately injured his knee in their previous series, and their former 6th man of the year had been traded away before the season began. Kevin Durant was now their only offensive weapon. Therefore, the Grizzlies stepped foot onto the Chesapeake Arena floor, believing that this series would be an easy sweep, only for KD to drop 35 points on their head,
with a chance to take the lead. Durant, the lead!
Giving his Thunder a 1-0 lead. So how had Durant, who Tony had completely locked up 2 seasons ago, been able to dominate the Grizzlies defense like that anyway? Memphis head coach Lionel Hollins, understanding the situation the Thunder were in, opted for an interesting strategy because he decided to have Tayshaun Prince guard Durant rather than Tony Allen. But why? Well, the reason is simple. Since Kevin was their only offensive threat, Coach Hollins was comfortable with KD scoring 30 plus points a night. What he was uncomfortable with, however, was the other Thunder players having great offensive nights. So Lionel placed his specialist defenders, TA, Conley, and Gasol, on the other OKC players to ensure that they struggled as the series progressed. And just 10 days later, this plan had paid off. Memphis would gentlemen sweep their way past Oklahoma, winning the series 4-1. But their next opponent was going to be their toughest yet, because San Antonio Spurs head coach Greg Popovich still felt the pain of the 8th-seeded Grizzlies defeating them 2 seasons ago, and he, much like Allen had done against the Clippers, vowed to get his revenge. So over the next week, the Spurs would clinically dissect Memphis, with Coach Pop highlighting their main weakness on offense, Tony Allen. TA was left wide open and dared to shoot by San Antonio's defense.
Allen
for three. Wow, a foot short.
And Tony's poor 37% shooting from the field was nowhere near good enough to prevent Greg Popovich from getting his revenge. For the second season in a row, Tony was destroyed. His team was just a mere 4 wins away from the franchise's NBA Finals berth. Yet, Allen would do what he had always done, get back in the gym or behind his laptop and work, driven to lead his Grizzlies to the title that they, alongside their fans, were so hungry for. April 29th, 2014, new Grizzlies head coach David Yoger had placed his defensive specialist back onto Kevin Durant in their first round playoff series against the Thunder for one simple reason.
Shutting me down, I don't know about that, but just making it tough on me. Tony Allen by far is the greatest defender I've ever played against.
TA was a pest. His ability to get around screens meant his former teammate and now OKC big man Kendrick Perkins literally had to set illegal picks to free up Kevin Durant.
We really had a problem. I had to really hit you with some elbows to get him up off of.
When interviewed about his ability to get around giant humans like Perkins, Tony just replied, "You just do it." Confused by how simple he made it seem, the reporter pressed him again, only to receive a similar response. "You just do it. You don't get screened." Thanks to the defensive dominance of TA, it was Memphis who held the crucial 3-2 lead, and with Game 6 being played at the Grindhouse, everything pointed towards the Grizzlies moving past Oklahoma City, which, of course, resulted in members of the media questioning if Durant was really a winning player that deserved to win a league MVP.
He's preoccupied
6 turnovers, yeah.
because Tony Allen has gotten in his head.
He has.
He's made him a bit hesitant and reluctant to dribble the basketball.
Yep.
KD would listen to what was being said about him in the media and respond the only way he knew how. Allen's incredible ability to get around every screen thrown at him, prevent Durant from catching the ball in his comfort zone, and contest every jumper he put up was meaningless. Kevin would score an incredible 36 points in Game 6, and without Zach Randolph in Game 7, who was suspended for punching Steven Adams, Oklahoma City would win the final 2 games of the series. For the third straight season, TA's championship dreams had been crushed. To make things worse, the NBA, despite his incredible performance against Durant, hadn't named him to any of the all-defensive teams, a decision that only added fuel to the already large flame in his heart. However, as the 2014-2015 regular season progressed, it seemed like Allen's offensive game was only getting worse.
Oh, I got away with a carry right there, too. Oh, my goodness.
He clogged the middle pretty well. Tony Allen too strong. Missed the tip.
Ooh, step back. Airball. Oh, my God.
Yet, of course, his defensive skills were only improving. Despite averaging just 26 minutes a game, TA would finish with the 4th most steals on average as the season came to a close. And given his veteran status, he had earned a new nickname, the Grindfather. The Grizzlies even handed out pepper grinders to honor the Grindfather in the Grindhouse at a regular season home game, showing just how much their star defender meant to the franchise. Memphis, after trading away Tayshaun Prince and picking up Jeff Green, finished the season with 55 wins, marking the 3rd straight year they had achieved this impressive feat. Now they just had to achieve their one final goal. The first step to winning this elusive championship, defeating the young but very talented Portland Trailblazers. However, instead of telling you what happened, I'll just sum up the series for you in one photo. While Zebo was getting clowned for still using a flip phone, the difference in age and experience between the Blazers and the Grizzlies was evident throughout the matchup. Memphis's defense would hold the 2 Portland stars, guard Damian Lillard and power forward LaMarcus Aldridge, to a horrible 38% shooting combined. TA and his Grizzlies
Shem God. Oh my God. Oh man. I was supposed to make that one, dog.
would be moving on to face one of the most revolutionary teams in the NBA. Before the 2014-15 season began, Golden State, who, much like Memphis, had struggled to get past the Spurs, hired 5-time NBA champion guard Steve Kerr.
Why don't we go to Steve?
To become their head coach. Coach Kerr revitalized the way his Warriors squad played, allowing them to finish as the first seed in the Western Conference and earning them a second-round matchup with the Memphis Grizzlies. As the Grizzlies stepped foot onto the Oracle Arena court, the contrast in styles could not be more obvious. Memphis, who were the slowest-paced team in the past 2 seasons, looked to play inside out, get the ball to Gasol or Randolph, and let them go to work. While this strategy was successful before, the NBA was changing, because Golden State would simply slowly outscore the Grizzlies. Over the course of this initial matchup, the Warriors would drop in 13 threes, a whopping 10 more than Memphis, resulting in the Grizzlies losing Game 1 by 15 points. TA, who was responsible for guarding Warriors shooting guard Klay Thompson, knew he had to step up and shut him down. Allen was also driven to prove to the league that he was truly deserving of being in the all-defensive first team. So, as usual, Tony would intensely study film from their last game, as well as the Warriors' first-round matchup against the New Orleans Pelicans, to try and understand how he could destroy Klay. Game 2. The Grindfather has been so locked in throughout this game that during a timeout, he would wander into the court and right into the middle of a youth dance group's performance. While many assumed the Memphis guard was just being disrespectful, he was actually just visualizing the matchup.
And I was so focused in, I walked in, I looked, by the time I got to where this Grizzly head was at, I looked, I said, oh, and walked through a whole routine. Killer, I tried to shake the little man here. Oh, there you go, little man. But so to Dub Nation, bro, I apologize sincerely. Sincerely, man. It was a competition, man. Game within the game. I was trying to shut down my opponent.
As the second half progressed, Allen, who was mic'd up, would grab 2 key steals against Klay Thompson and then yell,
"First team all defense! First team all defense!"
But it was this hype that began to unravel Tony's success, because despite winning Game 2, the dunk TA had thrown down after stealing a pass had injured his hamstring. Tony, eager to continue his defensive dominance against Klay, would force himself to play Game 3, a decision that he would later regret, because, as usual, the Grindfather only had one speed, all in. Yet, inspired by their veteran sacrifice, it was once again the Grizzlies who would win Game 3, proving that analytics, pace, and space might not be the answer overall. However, Steve Kerr, much like his former head coach Greg Popovich, had a plan, because during Memphis's wins, they had applied a simple strategy on offense. They knew that Draymond Green, who stood at 6'5", was undersized and couldn't truly guard either Zebo or Gasol. Therefore, whoever Green was guarding, the Grizzlies would feed them the ball, which negated Bogut's, who stood at 7 foot tall, ability to block or alter shots at the rim. So in Game 4, Steve Kerr simply switched Bogut from guarding Gasol or Zebo to Tony Allen. Now, the Warriors big could just sit in the paint all game long and contest every Memphis layup they attempted. Bogut didn't have to worry or stress about being pulled away from the hoop because of Gasol's jump shot. If Allen won the Grizzlies this matchup through shooting, then so be it.
Gasol, they're leaving Allen wide open, and he's missed a couple now.
This adjustment by Coach Kerr saw Memphis shoot a horrendous 37% from the field as a team, and despite Tony missing Game 5 due to his hamstring, Golden State would breeze right past the Grizzlies, en route to winning the 2015 NBA championship. Tony Allen and Memphis's title window was seemingly coming to an end. TA believed that next season would be his final attempt at winning his second championship. But given the clear direction across the league away from Memphis's signature style, could they even make it out of the Western Conference? The 2015-2016 season began like many others for the Grizzlies. The Grindhouse was a formidable location for opposing teams, and Memphis held a 31-22 record heading into the All-Star break. However, 3 days before this pause in play, in a matchup against the Portland Trailblazers, Gasol, with no contact, would fracture his foot, ruling him out of the remainder of the season. And this wasn't the only Grizzly who had been bitten with the injury bug, because throughout the year, Memphis would see an insane 28 different players suit up due to the immense amount of problems that they faced. Mike Conley, who had dubbed this year's team the Goon Squad, would also suffer season-ending tendonitis, and it seemed whoever they signed to replace him ended up with the same fate. But despite their horrible 3-14 end to the regular season, they still maintained a record good enough to grab the 7th seed, thanks to their positive beginning. Yet San Antonio, their first round opponent, would simply steamroll right past the injured and bruised Goon Squad, and this was the start of the end for Tony Allen. Because just like his teammates, as the 2016-17 season came to an end, he would also experience a similar fate. Allen had strained his calf, ruling him out of their first round matchup against, surprise surprise, the San Antonio Spurs. Memphis, without their defensive mastermind, would, for the third time, be defeated by the San Antonio Spurs, and TA had a serious dilemma on the horizon. You see, the Grindfather desperately wanted to win a second NBA title, but Tony knew he could no longer contribute as he once had. So, when DeMarcus Cousins, a young, dominant big man, and his former point guard, Rajon Rondo, called to recruit Allen's veteran leadership and IQ to the Pelicans, he answered. The Grizzlies' free agent would sign immediately. The situation seemed perfect. New Orleans needed a veteran presence, someone who could guide their young players on how to succeed, as well as a spark plug, a player to jolt their defense off the bench. Yet Allen continued to struggle with the same injuries which had hassled him throughout his career, and when he was healthy, Pelicans head coach Alvin Gentry barely utilized his veteran, angering Tony.
Shout out to the Pelicans. Yeah, that's the worst organization.
As the 2017-2018 season closed, so did Tony Allen's incredible NBA career. Allen would end his career as an NBA champion, a 3-time member of the All-NBA First Team, a 3-time member of the Second Team, and his number 9 jersey was retired by the Grizzlies. Also, I would love to know your thoughts in the comments of the following question. Is Tony Allen the greatest defender to ever step foot onto an NBA court? Regardless if you think he is or isn't, please let me know why. And if you think no, please let me know who you think is the greatest defender of all time. By the way, did you know Isaiah Thomas, a 5'9" point guard who finished his career as a 2-time NBA All-Star and almost won the NBA's MVP award in 2017, was picked last in the 2011 draft? To find out exactly how Isaiah proved everyone wrong and showcase to the world just how truly talented he was, only for it to all be ripped away much like Tony Allen due to injury, click the video on your screen now.